So I was reading a wedding contract that Albert Einstein drafted with his wife and offered up to his wife, dictating the terms of their marriage. And it was at a point where Einstein wanted a divorce at this point, and I guess this contract was his attempt to completely formalize their marriage to the point where they would have no affection of any sort. And so he wanted to break away from the marriage, and this has been recorded. But, the contract's pretty hilarious. When you read the terms, and I'll read some of them off. Term 1, you will make sure that my clothes and laundry are kept in good order, that I will receive my 3 meals regularly in my room, that my bedroom and study are kept neat, and especially that my desk is left for my use only. A second demand, you will renounce all personal relations with me insofar as they are not completely necessary for social reasons. Specifically, you will forego 1, my sitting at home with you, and 2, my going out or traveling with you. C, you will obey the following points in your relations with me. 1, you will not expect any intimacy from me, nor will you reproach me in any way. 2, you will stop talking to me if I request it. 3, you will leave my bedroom or study immediately without protest if I request it. And finally, and this is one of the ones that I consider most important, you will undertake not to belittle me in front of our children, either through words or behavior. Now, a lot of people may call these terms cruel and loveless, but I think that this is the compassionate thing to do when a man is put into a position where he simply does not want to be with a woman that he's married to. And remember, I'm talking about the context. In this day and age, divorce was shunned. Nowadays, the proper thing to do would just be to get a divorce. Of course, I warned people not to get married in the first place, so that's a self-defeating assertion. But in Albert Einstein's time, this is actually something that I consider to be a compassionate peace offering, if you will, and I don't blame him for drafting up this contract. But I'm getting off point now. This gives us valuable insight into the mind of Einstein. Einstein was one of the watershed-inducing arbiters of scientific insight that civilization squeezes out of its male resources, the equivalent of the 1901 Spindletop oil strike, a veritable hope diamond of male brilliance that came out of civilizational male draw, as I discussed in my previous video. It is, however, interesting to note that his attitude was one in which, although he pursued numerous women, generally eschewed them as a mere distraction in the pursuit of a much more grandiose imperative, that of theoretical physics. Now, after his wife, a physicist herself, albeit a much less profound one than Einstein, rejected the marriage contract that Einstein gave to her, Einstein, in a supreme act of confidence in his scientific ability, predicted he would win the Nobel Prize for his efforts and offered his wife a trade of the substantial financial portion of the prize in exchange for her granting him a divorce. Now, Einstein wrote many love letters to his first wife, Mileva, and must have cared for her on some level, but it was rumored that his wife was harboring resentment and jealousy towards him as a result of his rise to preeminence in the intellectual world of physics, combined with her second failure of her final exams at the Swiss Polytechnic Institute where she met Einstein. Now, her failure to pass these final exams should settle the rumors and speculations surrounding Einstein's supposed plagiarism of Mileva, but of course conspiracy theories persist, implying that Mileva was the actual originator of Einstein's theory of relativity. Our society is one which desires desperately to peruse the annals of history in hopes of wrenching away the achievements of great men, or at the very least slandering their names now that they aren't here to defend themselves. Case in point, I was watching a documentary on Einstein, which is in the link box, in which Einstein's affairs with other women were being discussed, and like clockwork, some feminist crone devoid of any credible achievement or talent sees fit to call Einstein one of the greatest minds the world has ever seen, a misogynist, a hater of women based on how he treated his wife and his extramarital affairs.
Umgehen, und wird es sein Leben lang nicht lernen.
Oh, I think he was a misogynist. I think Einstein was definitely.
Ich bin mir sicher, dass er Frauen verachtete. Sexuell war Einstein unersättlich. Er hatte überall Liebhaberinnen. Er mochte Sex. Und andere hatten offensichtlich gerne Sex mit ihm. Aber ich glaube nicht, dass er Frauen sonderlich mochte. Es wird daran deutlich, wie er viele Frauen in seinem Leben behandelte.
I feel it important to point out these little instances of feminist revisionist history for posterity because it highlights the nature of feminist intellectualism and how it hinges not on cultivating excellence in women, but on tearing down all areas of male achievement. It needs to be said and observed that for all of its talk, for all of its cackling noise, it has never once and never will compel women to create something all on their own, without their fair share of provision from the so-called patriarchy they claim to despise. Feminism functions as a vast handicap of convenience on the women under its purview, and women are inherently inclined toward its adoption. It's to the point now where an entire phylum of college curricula grounded in the explaining away of female mediocrity persists at the university level across the entire spectrum of Western education, meaning that the only possible output that we will receive for the academization of excuse-making and mediocrity is, of course, more excuse-making and mediocrity. Millions upon millions of dollars committed to the art of manufacturing grievance where none exists, and we are rewarded with, well, Einstein, he was a misogynist, don't you know? Take notice that in this so-called patriarchy, no one man is immortalized or venerated for simply talking about the inherent proclivities of men. There must be action. There must then be remarkable achievement. We don't erect statues of Isaac Newton because he walked around talking about how great men are. We do so because of his vast scientific achievement. The most notable feminists are, of course, comprised of petulant old hags that dedicated their lives to ceaseless proclamations of self-congratulatory gender preening. Although it's not exactly a shock to me that the underpinning of feminist gender theory rests on the foundation of the mysterious emotional acumen of the divine feminine, or in other words, a bunch of over-emotional, lazy, dishonest bullshit of no actual value. I'll finish with a message to women. If you want respect, real, credible, hard-earned respect, I suggest that you not only distance yourself from this disingenuous feminist movement that slowly pilfers its way into all areas of importance, since in and of itself it cannot sustain its own weight. Not only should you distance yourself, but you should actively seek to discredit it. And until this happens, en masse, any supposed claims of gender equality under the law from self-identifying feminists is invalid. And any general reconciliation between men and women is invalid. The possibility of reconciliation between men and women exists only in a reality where men are allowed full control over their lives, period. That means no privileges or advantages for women, period. There's no need to elaborate further about the state of affairs between the genders that women and the state ruined until this occurs, period. That's all I gotta say on the subject.